This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Very Hard to Submit. Go to vhtsny.com and check out their kimonos, compression gear, and apparel. This is a brand we are excited to be supported by. Their gear is high quality with a clean design. Go to vhtsny.com and see for yourself.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Grappler Union podcast. Javier Palomo alongside Anthony Zito. Our guest today is Ivaylo Ivanov. Ivaylo is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a second-degree black belt in Judo, and a master of sport in Sambo. He is also the president of the International Combat Wrestling Federation. Enjoy.
I hate the 6 minutes. That's what happens in that 6 minutes.
You told me using any technique that works. Never to limit myself to one style. Keep an open mind.
We're not here to take part. We're here to take over.
In order to become more peaceful, in order for you to become better and strategize your life.
All right, we're live. Javier, do some introductions, please.
Man, you know I'm terrible in introductions.
You are horrible at them.
We should definitely get Boschko on the mic, get him in here. Like he would love to do an introduction. Now, so we have. Well, I'm going to say basically the same stuff. Yeah, we've got a very special guest today. Man is a master of sport in Sambo, which is a title that is not easy to come by here in the States. He's a second-degree black belt in Judo. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he is the president of the Combat Wrestling Federation.
Is that an office you run for?
Yeah. You're elected president. You know, some of us, you know, some have been born kings.
Yes,
but yeah.
But this is like
no,
there's a panel.
No, you much as you started a company.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
so
is the process. Is that
the process?
Look, how should I explain it? Like, you have to know that everywhere around the world, the sports federation works different. So,
Okay.
for example, in Europe, a lot of the federations have government support, right?
Okay.
So they have to be registered with the sports bureau, which doesn't exist in the States.
Yeah, we don't have a
Right.
ministry of sport or anything
Yes.
like that.
So, if you want to start something like a sports federation in all the continents around the world, you have to be flexible. So I just let everyone do the way that they want to do. As soon as they have a registered as a legal entity, basically, either a sports federation, either a like non-profit organization.
Yeah, a lot of nonprofits.
Like so it's
Oh, so it's the same thing as like starting a company. You start. What's it called?
sports federations in Europe are not private entities.
They're not?
No. You
Okay.
register with sports bureau. You register so you have to basically you really have to show it's a sport.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not for profit, right? But they can get subsidies from the government for, let's say, if they have a bunch of world medalists, for example, they have like prizes for achieving first to third place in the world and Europeans and like that. It's quite different.
Right.
Quite
Yeah.
different.
So, like here in America, Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, for example, are mostly, amateur sports. No real money to be had from just inherently from competing in it. There are, of course, like Jiu-Jitsu has sponsored athletes and whatnot. That's all outside of the federation. And then Judo, like USA Judo, hands out a certain relatively small amount of money to guys that win like world championships, gold medals at the Olympics, things like that. It's honestly not much money in the grand scheme of things. But for the most part, like it's not a truly government supported sport. It's like a grassroots movement. The fans and competitors and whatnot have to get together and organize all that stuff. But in Europe, like this is a way of life oftentimes.
Pretty much.
Being a judoka, a sambist,
It's
like
professional athlete.
Yeah.
And-
just like maybe not on quite on the level of like the NFL, but along that same sort of sort of line where it's regarded as a professional sport. This is what you do. You're not working a 9 to 5 and doing judo in your spare time or sambo in your spare time.
That's not how it is.
Yeah. Let me give you an example. For
Yeah.
example, there is a guy that I know that he competes in Kazakh wrestling, if you know what it is.
No.
Kazakh?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he competes in that, which is generally a sport which is only based in Kazakhstan.
Okay.
So for the course of about 15, 16 years, he won, just the cars that he won, I think it was 14 SUVs. And this is from the government, separated. We have like apartments and money or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the level of,
What's the
how they-
motivation for giving him 14 cars?
Well, you won the national title.
But what's the cars? I don't like how. What do they get? They just get someone gives them cars and he's like,
Yeah.
okay, here I'm just gonna give you this car.
Yeah. Have you seen like Khabib Nurmagomedov, for example, when he won the title, he got gifted quite a lot of stuff.
From the government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And private sponsors too.
Yeah,
But
as
they
well.
just give him a lot. That's the way it works there. Man.
Sports like that are taken a little bit more seriously in other parts of the world than they are here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here is mainly like private sponsorship, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot. Like the athletes are typically expected to go out, find their own sponsors. In jiu-jitsu, it's very common to have like clothing brands, athletic equipment of some kind. Like it's not uncommon to see like various companies that do tape or specialized soap or
Soaps
things
and
like that.
everything.
Yeah. That's all very common. Obviously, when we organize the national team for and the world team for combat wrestling, we've got the sponsors like Chambers Bank and whatnot, and that's because combat wrestling is set up as a nonprofit. So of course, if you can convince a large corporate entity, hey, you donate to our team, we're going to send a team to Worlds, you'll help with airfare and hotel and things like that, they can just write that right off.
Right.
Because if we were a for-profit company, that wouldn't be an option. I shouldn't say we. I'm a part of it only as an athlete, not sitting on the board or anything. But
For now.
well, hey. Uh-oh.
Who knows for the future, eh?
Maybe
Yeah.
once I'm too old to compete, in my 70s or so.
Right.
In the 70s. So yeah, the way the sports entities are formed around the world is quite interesting. There are countries that you cannot register a new sports federation. I think Sweden was like that. In Sweden, I believe that they had quite the trouble to register Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation because they're just not allowed to have more sports. So they have to register under already existing federation. Like in China, for example, if you want to register MMA, you register under Wushu, which is like, Kung Fu. They take Wushu, is kind of like it covers all the bases.
All the combat sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to have type of Wushu, which is going to be only groundwork, for example, or only grappling, or only striking, or something like that. So you in general take Wushu license to do that. Super interesting,
That's actually kind of interesting because, one of the big challenges in terms of growing MMA was getting it over to Asia, especially China. And I never considered that might just be a logistics thing. I always assumed it was kind of a cultural thing where they didn't want to do MMA.
No. They love it. But
Right.
the thing
Well,
is that
now they do definitely, but in the beginning it didn't seem like that.
I know quite a few people that they actually owned big brands there. Like there was one called Ruff, RUFF. Well, they went underwater a long time ago. But in general, since the beginning of the interest in MMA in China, people started looking to represent UFC. And there were a lot of people that were working on the same time representing UFC. So I'm guessing you guys don't know how the things work there. You have to get somebody like a general or somebody really important
high
from
up.
the Communist Party to support you there and everything like that. That's the license issue, right? So all of them didn't have this kind of a license because at the time they didn't know how to, okay, what kind of license do you guys need? What kind of sport is that? Is it a sport? Is it amateur? Is it professional? So a lot of things change, and in the end they figure out, okay, it's going to be the Wushu license. I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu also is under Wushu license there.
That's a weird statement to my ears.
But it is the way that it is. Man. So
Right.
they registered it like that. And finally, I think right now they have a few local brands, most probably. what was it, the Kowloon fights or something like that.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, and they put quite a few shows in there, and then they have ONE FC is working with locals with some local base as well, and they also have the Korean. Hey, what was the name of the Korean one? I can't remember, but one of the big ones there, Roots. No, I can't remember it right now. But yeah, in general, they have their own brands. They're working together with big brands like ONE FC. Like ONE FC is quite big in Asia.
Right.
Yeah.
Putting on good shows too.
Quite. If you consider the talent that they're having, like they're basically taking guys from the street, right? We're not talking about like big names from Europe, US, or whatever. They want to build their own
local talent.
Did
make their own
Demetrius
stars.
Johnson go to ONE FC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or wait, it was ONE FC or Ryzen?
ONE
No,
FC.
it's ONE FC. Yeah.
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 I think Ben Askren was champion there for a
He
long
was
time.
champion there for a while. Yeah.
Speaking of,
Yeah, what happened with that?
I think that he got a free ride on that one. I don't think that was a. I don't think he deserved that win.
see, okay, and full disclosure, okay, I love Robbie Lawler, I love Ben Askren. I've met and trained with Ben Askren, so I've got a little bit more emotional investment.
Okay.
In Ben Askren, not much,
Okay.
but just a hair. So to be fair, there, I do agree that was like a goofy stoppage.
Goofy, yeah.
I 100% understand just watching the video what Herb Dean was thinking. I don't think it was like a tragically bad call under the circumstances. And I like, as somebody who's been a terrible referee, like I totally understand why he made that call. It really seemed like Robbie was going out.
Okay,
Like
and then
when his hand fell off the cage,
Right.
he didn't like put his hand down firmly on the mat. Like his hand fell off the cage. It was hanging limp. It looked like Herb shook him back awake.
Let's just look at this. Let's look at the whole picture of all fights, right? So,
Sure.
if a guy gets rocked,
Yeah.
let's go with Frankie Edgar versus Gray Maynard. Frankie's rocked. I mean, anyone would be like, yeah, stop that fight now. He's completely rocked. Nope. He regains consciousness, basically getting hit again, pops back up. Same thing with that same card. You had Cody Garbrandt getting rocked, kept getting hit, regains consciousness. Why can't a guy from getting choked regain and then continue to fight? You have John Jones knee the guy in the head. They stop the fight. John goes, sits in the corner. They evaluate the tape. Was that an illegal knee? Was it not? Let's give him 2 points. The guy continues to fight after that. Why couldn't Herb Dean say, okay, well, I made a mistake. Let's look at the footage. What?
Wait, you're saying
I'm saying-
he came. So you're saying he came to,
Yep.
or didn't get passed out. What's your
I'm
thought
saying
there?
if he got passed out, it's at some point he regained consciousness, maybe by Ben not squeezing as much, maybe Ben was losing. He regained consciousness somewhere in that bulldog choke. Is that what it's called? Bulldog choke?
Yep.
That's a common name for it. Yeah.
Somewhere in there he regained because his arm goes limp. I agree. I saw that. Then I saw it come back up after Dean grabbed
Right.
it. And it came back
Dean
up.
was Herb Dean was not in good position to see when he gave that brief thumbs up.
I agree. But I saw his arm come back up when he moved it. Maybe intervention, maybe causing him to wake back up, but then he's back awake, so he's in it again. Why are we calling the fight?
This is a dangerous precedent you're setting.
I'm just
there.
saying.
Okay, so first of all,
Well, how are we
we're
looking
making
at it?
a unique exception for chokes amongst submission holds, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Okay, because
They put
otherwise,
you up.
I need to Paul-Harris you on everything.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
and that's going to have
But
athletes getting
tapping.
long.
He's tapping. There, he's not. He went to sleep.
No,
he didn't
'cause
have
that-
to go to sleep.
Guys were not tapping against Paul Harris all the time. That was the problem. They were getting injured, then tapping afterwards. Then he was, still holding it too late.
Well, I mean, he was. They were getting injured of their own fault. I mean, once they tapped, the whole point with Paul Harris was that they would tap and he would continue to crank.
He would wait until the referee threw him off of him, so that there would be
Exactly.
no risk that somebody would pull
Exactly.
any bullshit.
Yeah, that's completely different than what I'm saying.
Is it?
I'm saying if the choke's in deep and the guy goes to sleep,
You just want guys going to sleep then.
if they don't tap, they go to sleep. Fine, then call it. But Robbie, it was questionable. His arm came back up, And I'm saying that if a guy can get knocked out, regain consciousness, and then continue to fight, why? And then a guy can get kneed in the head, they stop the fight, look at the replay. Why can't they do the same thing for maybe Michael Chiesa and maybe for Robbie Lawler? And to continue the fight, say, okay, wait, was he out? Was he not out?
Hold on.
Put him back in the same position.
No, stop. Okay, so I lock a choke in on you.
Yes.
Okay, we'll say that I'm being super merciful and I feel you go limp and I decide not to knee you in the face or punch you while your unconscious body is in my arms. Okay, then I let you go, okay, because you've gone limp and I'm like, hey, ref, he's out.
Right.
And in the process of falling, slumping over, hitting the floor, whatever, you want the fight to go on?
I don't want the fight to go on.
Okay. So
I'm saying in the case.
So hold on. So we're making a super minuscule use case scenario here where
it's more the case of the referee being able to pause the fight and then
He's be like,
restart the fight.
like the adrenaline dump that you get from thinking you just won by chokehold,
I don't know.
letting go of that choke and being like, yeah, and then be like, oh, I got to fight him again.
Well, I mean, it
I look at the
happens.
situation
No,
from
like-
a different point of view. You know,
What's your point of view?
Let's hear this. But
well, I look at
I think
it
the striking is a different
from
situation.
the point of view of the referee. You know, so for me, it's not about like which fighter do I like more, or was it the technique right, or something. I'm just looking at it as a referee. So the guy's there. Is he looking like he's limp? Yep. So that's what the rule says, right?
right, safety of the athlete.
Yes, done. That's it. Was it a bad call? Most probably. But those are the rules. I have to abide the rules, right? As a referee too. Otherwise, I'm putting the fighter in danger. So that's what it is. It's simple.
Yeah.
You know, they stop it. That's it.
And like I said, I think it was 100% an understandable, if unfortunate, stoppage.
Right.
Like I definitely would have liked to see that fight go on longer.
Of course.
But I for sure thought he was out as soon as that arm fell off the cage. 100%. Like that's like it. Like I said, if he had put the hand on the mat, you know, if he was trying to do anything, but no, it's just like he flopped like a noodle.
Yeah, I know. I
Shoulders
saw
went-
that.
His shoulders went down.
His
Yeah,
shoulders went down. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't like Ben's body was in the way from the camera angle that I saw. If there's alternate angles of it, I haven't seen it really. But like from the camera angle that I saw, Ben's body was covering up most of Robbie's body, so I couldn't see if like he started doing the breathing. I can't remember the term for it, but the diaphragmatic breathing. Like I don't think he went deep enough for that to happen because he came right back. So like. What's your main injury?
When Ben let go, I mean, Robbie was like eyes like, what the fuck?
Straight up.
Straight like what up? Like he wasn't like woozy. He didn't look. He looked like if he did go out, it was for a second, and then maybe the something changed in the position of when he was holding it. He could have just. You know, from the bulldog, he could have changed the position, moved his arm a little bit, and Robbie was able to wake up inside that position still.
Right, no, yeah,
I do
then
understand
what?
the mechanics of it though, because look, bulldog choke is a blood choke. It's not a it's not a
Right, he's not suffocating.
respiration
He's-
choke. So as it works, he's stopping the oxygen
Right.
going to your brain.
Right.
But as soon as he releases, though, immediately it goes up.
Yes.
So yeah, he can actually come back within a fraction of a second.
Yeah.
If he wasn't like going deep.
But
Right.
did you see the actual choke put in? It just
Yes.
didn't look that deep.
I mean,
It looked more on the.
Yeah, that was deep.
Was it deep? Yeah.
I felt it was deep enough. Like, here's the thing, like,
Because I look at
your
like
biceps
I'm
gonna
not
ride up
familiar
on
with
it.
that choke. I look at
I'll
you
do
know,
it to you later if you want.
Yeah, I look at like the triangles, you know, as being one side, the other
Watch what you
side.
take.
But then you know,
Yeah, no, your ribs. So your ribs on one side are mostly closing off the one side of the neck.
so it's like a
and your-
north south choke.
I mean, if I do it to you,
Similar.
yeah. If I do it to you, it's gonna feel like a rear naked choke or a north south.
North-south choke.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely a blood choke. Again, and I can't. You know, I wasn't in there. I didn't feel it. I can't say how tight it was. But yeah, like as a fighter, I don't want to give anyone the impression that I'm out. Like I don't want to play possum against the guy that I'm grappling with because you trick the ref into thinking that that's going to happen.
Right.
You know, and I don't know that that's what he was doing.
Right.
You know, like it. 100%, I thought he was out. I was like, "Damn, that was fast," you know. But yeah, like I don't know. Like Robbie definitely snapped back right away.
Yeah.
And he like, for the record, in the aftermath, he seems like he's relatively cool with it. You know, he understands. Herb was doing his job. It's not like he was like
he's not an
you know,
unreasonable person at all.
right. Yeah.
Right.
They're talking about getting a rematch going for him, which I wouldn't mind seeing at some point. Although I don't know that I need to have an immediate rematch.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to see that as well. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Robbie's coming back from, is it ACL reconstruction? This is his first fight back since a bad injury, and this was Ben's first fight in the UFC. I sure as hell wouldn't mind seeing both of them fight somebody else. Win or lose, I don't even care, and then after that, run it back.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
get that opportunity.
I mean, we were talking about it when we did the fight companion of like who's in that division that would be a good fight. I personally think Damian Maia would be a good fight.
For Ben, we're talking.
Yeah, Ben versus Damian Maia. I think
It'd be interesting.
that would be. As a fan, I would like to see that. I like to see that wrestling versus that high level jiu-jitsu. I mean, what else? The fans, who else would not want to see that?
Yeah, it'd be an interesting matchup.
Above all, anyone else in that division, that would be the fight.
Yeah. I am under the impression that while Ben Askren was training in Singapore, he actually trained quite a lot with Shin Aoki. Like, I cannot confirm that.
Okay.
But I'm under the impression that he did. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Askren has an answer for Maya.
I mean, he's definitely got some.
He's a really good wrestler. Dude.
Yeah.
If he knows how to defend, like if he has the positional knowledge for jiu-jitsu and everything, yeah, he can handle it.
Yeah.
He can basically dominate the fight just by being positional grappler, without submissions at all.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Score points and that's it.
Right, yeah.
He's not gonna choke out Damian Maia, that's for sure.
I don't see that happening.
Yeah,
it could, but I
just with dominance on the cage or the mat or whatever, that he can pull it off.
Yeah. As a fan, I like to see it.
Yeah, and he's got a
definitely.
very different approach to grappling than Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like you can see in some of his fights when he was first new to the fight game and he was trying to do a lot of Jiu-Jitsu and frankly, largely failing at it. And then eventually he just started switching back over to like his folk style roots and how can I use that to set up strikes from top and things like that. And like Khabib's right there with him. Like those two do the best stuff from like side ride with an inside wrist. And,
Yeah, but Khabib is definitely a better striker.
oh yeah, I'm not. I agree.
I mean, it didn't look like Ben Askren knew how to throw a punch very well at all.
Khabib's also like been in this game longer.
Has he? Really?
Yeah. Ben's coming to. I mean, he's been wrestling a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Because Ben's older than Khabib, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how many years. It might be almost a decade.
Yeah.
But
Khabib has a lot higher quality opponents.
yeah.
So, and I'm guessing training partners too.
Yeah, Well, I don't really know what Askren's doing training wise right now. He trains up in Wisconsin with Duke Rufus and their crew for the most part. Like that's where he gets and Tyron and him are good buddies. I presume they train together somewhat regularly. But he also the dude's super busy running like a kids wrestling program up in Wisconsin too. So I couldn't really speak on that with any intimate knowledge. But yeah, Khabib definitely be an interesting fight there too. I know Askren wants that.
I want to
versus
see them
Askren.
to go at it.
Yeah, I'd like to see it, but Dana's saying there's no 165 division and it'll never happen. So
Well, I don't know why Khabib can't fight at 170. He's giant.
he is big for his division, yes. And
How much
Askren
longer is he going to make that weight?
Askren is not well. I don't know. I don't know that he's going to have that much of a problem with it. I mean, he's got before. I think it was mostly a diet, nutrition, discipline thing.
Okay.
Now I think he's got it more on point.
Yeah, but he's getting older. Getting older.
I mean, he ain't that much older.
I mean, look at Max Holloway. He's not going to be able to make 45. They're bumping him up to 55
Yeah,
for the interim belt.
growing boy
Yeah, he's a giant.
for his division.
145.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I just think those guys all cutting weight down is. We talked about it a little bit on the Fight Companion, but it just seems they just need to do what is it 1FC does with the water hydration tests.
Oh,
Kinda
yeah.
keep those guys just fucking. If you're walking around 195, don't cut to 155. Okay, let's get you.
Everyone
what you
would
should
go
be.
up at least a weight class, and many guys would go up more
Many
than
weight
one.
classes. I
You know
agree.
what?
Yeah.
You know what I would do? I would put them basically, just weigh in and compete 1 hour after.
Right.
just go straight.
That's dangerous from the start, though, because guys will still try to cut as much weight as possible.
Not to do the hydration.
They will eventually figure out that they shouldn't.
Right.
So
It's
they're
just a
gonna
question
stay-
of how bad it'll be in the interim before guys get smart about it.
So then, you know.
Because it's like
then
IBJJF. Nobody's cutting 30 pounds for an IBJJF because you step on the scale, you step on the mat.
They do it in wrestling, though.
Yeah.
They're doing wrestling quite a lot.
Yeah, some guys cut.
They're going to
but-
drop like 20 pounds and they just go.
Yeah,
go
but
there.
they've still got at least like an hour or so to rehydrate somewhat. So most typically.
Yeah. But once you have strikes included, that's a different story.
Yeah, it's more dangerous. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for head injuries, just getting the water back on the in the head.
I don't know. I would not mind if they ended weight cutting, but I know that like the day before weigh-in is a massive spectacle for the UFC. They make a big deal about it. You know,
still gotta
the
weigh
stare
in.
down. Well, yeah, but I'm just saying like you can't do well, I guess you could. You have to do it differently. You can't do like a step on the scale, step in the cage type thing if you still want the stare downs
Certainly
to
not.
happen
No.
at the scale.
Yeah, I don't think that's possible, but I think it's possible to get the athletes at a healthy weight class that they should be fighting at. You know, because it's just the trend is that when they go up a weight class, they look better. You know,
A lot of times,
Daniel Cormier looks good at heavyweight because that's where he should be. He's knocking people out at heavyweight. You know.
In the end of the day, it's going to come down to basically entertainment versus health issues, right?
Right.
But once you have, let's say, the athletic commissions weighing their opinion on it, I'm guessing that's what should be the prevailing. The health of the athlete should be number one.
And that should be the number one thing.
Yes.
But I think the issue holding it back is the other factors more so than anything.
Because in the end of the day, it is entertainment.
Right. And there's also a world of difference between like a guy being like, I can make the weight class, but I only have to shed like 5 pounds versus I can make the weight class. I just have to drop 30 pounds. Like those are, night and day differences in terms of.
I mean, the biggest problem. I mean, they want all these champs, and that's like the new thing now. Everything's champ. Well, why don't you just have more champs? Just have a whole nother freaking group because they have the 165 has already been approved by the athletic commission, so they can do a 165 belt. Why don't you do a 220, 225 belt, and then do a 300 and super heavyweight?
I agree. For me, it's just the thing that okay, if you are a champion of 2 weight classes, you should be a very busy guy defending those.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So
McGregor setting the precedent of not defending belts is the real problem there, in my opinion.
Sure. I mean, that whole thing with Floyd Mayweather, it's just a circus.
Well, it was really good money, though. We're back to the
I
entertainment.
didn't make any money
argument.
off that.
Well, McGregor doesn't care whether you made any money
off that. I think it was ridiculous. I think it definitely made the sport look not as good because
I think Dana White would disagree with you.
I know.
Although
I know, 'cause he
the
wants the
sport
boxing
got
pants.
exposed a lot more.
I agree, but is it in a good light or who's watching the sport?
I mean, pro wrestling is the exact same
Exactly.
argument.
That's a bit of a tricky one. For example, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Here, in the States, the way that fights are promoted here are a little bit on the trash talking side, right? This is not happening in Europe.
Yeah.
If you act like that in Europe, you're not going to have a big success.
That's
it's
good.
like, people are a
Why?
lot more
What's
respectful.
what's wrong with Americans? What's going on?
It sells.
Yeah.
sells.
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
There's
Fucking
a
people pay for it.
You try to do that in Europe, for example, it's not going to sell.
No.
And people are just going to look at you like an asshole.
Right.
So it doesn't sell. That's why people don't do it.
Right.
Just different mentality. But here it sells.
Yeah.
I don't know why. That's why I have WWE. We don't have it in Europe.
Oh, really?
Well, they've got professional wrestling in Europe, various different styles of it, like different
But
organizations.
not like fake wrestling.
You will never see
fake.
60,000 people watching that in a stadium. That's for sure. Yeah. You would see maybe like a 2,000.
Yeah.
But 60,000 something, no.
Yeah, it's big. It's big in Japan. Pro wrestling is huge in Japan. Big in Mexico
Yep.
and big in the United States, and those are like the 3 biggest countries for it.
Yeah.
You've got much lower representation in like England and Germany. It's practically non-existent in a bunch of countries. India's weird, actually. I don't know a lot about it.
India,
But
they start pushing for that.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that it's weird when you mention it. So you have United States, you have Mexico, and then you have Japan, right? but they are kind of on the USA culture
Right.
side.
No, yeah. And wrestling, professional wrestling,
Yeah.
came to all those countries from the United States.
Yes.
Like it definitely flowed to them. But like the Japanese are like, I don't know if we want to have a lengthy conversation about Japanese pro wrestling, but like the way Mexican wrestling works, the way Japanese pro wrestling works, very, very different from like American pro wrestling, especially the more modern sports entertainment style of pro wrestling. Like, so in Japan, for example, and this is one of those things that messes with a lot of people that are kind of, I don't want to say new, but like not very knowledgeable about like MMA's history and roots. A lot of guys that started off doing MMA in Japan came to it from some sort of pro wrestling background. Okay, there are other guys, from judo or shoot wrestling or whatnot. But there were a lot of guys in the early days, and some of them still active and whatnot, that had a professional wrestling background. And that's because professional wrestling, even though it is staged, is performed in a more realistic manner. There's actual strikes thrown. The throws are done with force and impact. In many cases, there's multiple styles of Japanese pro wrestling, mind you. Like there's barbed wire and electric cages and things like that. That sort of spectacle goes on there as well. But you need to have more realistic skills, because the style of grappling, the professional style of pro wrestling, is closer to the martial arts roots in Japan still. And there's a variety of different reasons for that. But so because of that, and because of the culture surrounding it, it's sort of treated as a martial art, just like karate or judo. And people, like Japanese fans are they're very respectful. They ooh and ah and clap for like the big moves, and they're very knowledgeable about it. And that kind of just flowed over right into from pro wrestling, along with the pro wrestlers that competed, flowed right over into the way the MMA approach is.
If you remember, for example, the big so the big dilemma, which one was better? Was it the Pride or was it UFC? Right?
Pride.
What makes them different, though?
Right, very different organizations.
So it's not the cage versus the ring or something like that. As a production, Pride was super professional. That was a production made for TV, which came from pro wrestling companies, basically.
Right.
It's formed by pro wrestling producers, and they have a lot of guys that were coming from pro wrestling background. That they actually competed in a lot of different grappling rules that they have, including combat wrestling, including judo, including everything that you can imagine. Because over the last 18 years, while I was living there, I competed in a lot of different rules that you would even think, what's the point of doing that? But they like it. They experiment a lot with different rules. You're gonna go for no-gi competition wearing a belt.
Right.
It doesn't matter the color. It's just the point that you're going to have a sumo guy entering, so he needs a belt.
Right.
So they want to make it fair for everyone. And that's it.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
We're going to put belts too, so you go. And that's it. But the production of Pride was made for TV from the same people that were producing
New Japan
pro wrestling shows, yes.
Yeah.
So that's why, you're looking at it like, whoa.
Yeah.
The whole thing. It's made in stadiums with all the lighting, the fireworks and everything which is made for TV. Like UFC wasn't like that. Like look at the photo in front of you.
Right.
You're gonna see it was not made for TV at all.
Right.
Yeah. Later on, it grew up to become a TV show. But until now, they still don't have the same entrances.
No, it's nothing. It's
the crazy Russian lady.
the screaming lady is.
Hyping up
Yeah,
the people
I'm still torn on that one. Like it definitely lets you know that the shit was about to go down. But I never really appreciated the screaming
It's just,
names.
Well, she's on Quintet right now.
Yeah.
I was just, we were watching it last night, and I'm telling guys, that's the Russian lady from Pride. And I was like, this is a lady? Yes, it is.
Yeah, no.
She should be like 50 or something.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your background.
All right.
And how you came to do all the things you do.
There's a lot of things.
Yeah. So, I started when I was a kid. My uncle was an international referee of Greco-Roman wrestling. So little by little got into it. I was like 5-6 years old, something like that.
You were living where?
In Bulgaria.
Okay.
So we started there. As a kid, I trained wrestling, not for too long, Then I started getting involved with more boxing and stuff. And then when I was 13 years old, we had like the big, Eastern Bloc falling thing and everything, So I was off from sports for a few years. Went back when I was like maybe 17. And then when I was 22, I believe, I moved to Japan. So, that's exactly the boom of Pride and everything. So I went back to all like wrestling, judo, and everything like that. I trained some Sambo in Bulgaria as well. Found a great Sambo place in Tokyo, where we had guys like, Shinya Oki used to train there too. Imanari was training there too. There was a lot of people there. All of them like champions of Pankrasi, Shuto, all different organizations. So yeah, I went back to it and just little by little, get competition experience, get to know a lot more of the things happening behind the scenes in terms of like organization and stuff like that, and start getting really interested in the more of the administration side of the whole thing. Like I always had the interest to be a competitor, but that was not my primary focus. I always wanted to be first a coach, then later on went to become an administrator, to form my own federation for combat wrestling and everything like that. I'm just looking at it from a little bit different point of view.
Right.
Yeah. So that was it. When I formed the International Combat Wrestling Federation, for example, the reason why I wanted to form it was because, there's been this, how should I say, like a big debate of why you don't have the number one grapplers from Sambo and Judo and Olympic wrestling not entering ADCC, for example,
Yeah.
Well, because they cannot win there. It's very simple. There is no way that guy like that can enter in ADCC or anything which is based on Jiu-Jitsu rule sets, and they can win. They cannot. So they have to compete in a different rule set and demonstrate their skills. So I wanted to provide that platform that everyone have the equal opportunity to win. So you have to include submissions, of course, groundwork, yeah. So let's put pins too, okay? But Jiu-Jitsu people don't know how to deal with pins, It's not going to be fair if we pin somebody for 20 seconds, for example, and you win. Okay, let's score justice points. Let's give some more points for takedowns and like that. Mm-hmm. Just include the whole game, as it should be, in my opinion. Because if let's say Jiu-Jitsu is the best martial art for ground fight, yeah. But this is the extremity of what you have as sumo, right? Which is only stand up, and if you touch the ground with any part of your body,
it's over.
Outside of
the
your
sole
feet,
of your foot, yeah,
it's done. Right. So this is the same. Would you say that sumo is complete? No. Would you say that jiu-jitsu is complete? No. So what are we going to do to make something complete? Is the rule set. Right. Yeah, is the rule set. So I thought about it as not as a sport to be practiced, but as a rule set that people should compete. And that's how it started.
So it's like a combining those three.
Yeah,
facets.
all components in
Judo,
grappling.
wrestling.
Yeah, but
Sambo.
just thinking for the biggest one. So you're gonna have Jiu-Jitsu, you're gonna have Judo, Sambo, and Olympic wrestling, right? If you take those, then you should think like, okay, what are the winning methods?
Right.
How do people score points like that? So then it kind of becomes clear, right? How you should form the rule set.
How do the matches go when you have Now, is it that the competitors have to adjust their training?
No.
So are you getting a pure judo guy in the competition against say Sambo guy?
Yeah.
Yes, but no. But okay, so judo, sambo, these are arts that are contested in jackets.
Yes.
There's a specific uniform,
Right.
and combat wrestling is essentially a no-gi sport.
Exactly.
So there will be adjustments that obviously has to be made. You don't want to go in as a guy that like all your best throws are off a lapel and sleeve, and suddenly you don't have that.
Right.
So there's got to be some adjustment in your training. We have leg locks in combat wrestling.
Is this
Those
going
aren't
on right
present
now?
In judo.
Yeah.
This is you have competitions currently, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How do you adjust for those?
Well, it helps be a well-rounded athlete.
Yes.
You need to.
But a judo
understand-
guy in no gi, what's he doing?
He's doing judo.
He's doing judo.
Yeah. Like here's the thing.
Yeah.
Like a guy who's got a game that is all spider guard or all lapel grip Tayatoshi or something like that, he's probably not going to convert over very well because he's specialized his grappling so much for his sport.
Exactly.
So
very,
if he
very
went,
narrow.
yeah, he's got a very narrow focus.
Right.
Like if your whole game is pull guard, sweep, stall, you're not going to make it in combat wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's a lot of sports that you will not succeed in. That's going to include MMA. Like that strategy just does not work.
Right.
Okay, but if you've got a more diverse background, if you got a wider base, then suddenly you open up the number of styles that you can compete under.
So like MMA, mixed martial arts, this is also a mixed martial art as well.
oh yeah. Like
It is a rule set, though.
But it's a
Right.
rule set.
Yes.
you can answer this obviously better than I can. There's no one that really does combat wrestling that I've met that's coming at this from a pure combat wrestling background. Okay,
There was
in Japan probably,
yes,
yeah,
because there are just a few gyms there.
that just teach for the sport.
Yes,
okay,
just that.
right. Most of the guys that I know compete from the States or come from other countries. They're guys that do Sambo, they're guys that do Judo, they're guys that do wrestling, there's guys that do Jiu-Jitsu. All of these sports are represented, and this is just a field that we can all compete in fairly,
Right. Why the word combat? Because now Eddie Bravo's using that for
Well, this is long.
Combat.
This is a thing long before Eddie Bravo came up with combat jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Okay, like
So is he
Let's
is
start
that going to be?
history? So no, not at all. Look,
No.
the thing is this: the rule set by itself, it is not created by me originally. So a Japanese wrestler, his name is Kiguchi Noriaki. He made this rule set in the 90s. So with kind of the same idea. Okay, so they held competitions for about 20-something years, and around the time that jiu-jitsu entered in the scene, then it start fading out a little bit, right? I start focusing on creating a new rule set somewhere around 2012, maybe something like that. Wow. So by the time it crystallized in my head like how it should look like, and then I put down, okay, so I should have a blue corner and a red corner and everything like that. So I was like, wait a second, I already seen this somewhere, I didn't have a name for it already, but yeah, I've seen that in Japan. That was combat racing. So I decided instead of coming with my own name, just speak with the founder of the original combat racing already. Yeah. Just spoke with him, like, can I use the name? So he gave me the permission. He was very happy that we're gonna work on developing it on a global scale. So that's how we started.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was so some of the fans will know this. He was a contemporary of Sayama, who sorry.
Ivanov.
No. The Japanese Kiguchi.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say it wrong, and I knew I was going to say it wrong, and so him and Sayama developed their arts kind of simultaneously, and Sayama went on to found shoot wrestling or Shuto.
Okay.
And he founded combat wrestling.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Kiguchi is you actually know quite a few people that he trained. One of them is Kit Yamamoto. Right?
Wow.
The other one is going to be Genki Sudo. The other one is going to be Rumina Sato. So pretty much, if you were a big name in MMA around 90s and up to the middle of the existence of Pride, like let's say 2005, something like that, you definitely work with that guy. Yeah, he had his own. The way that you have the Gracies, building up MMA fighters, he also built quite a few MMA fighters by himself.
Wow.
Yeah, very famous gym there. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but early days of it, I mean, at this point the longest portion of the history is strictly a Japanese style.
Yes.
Like it never left Japan. But like we would hear about these guys. Like that guy's a Japanese shoot wrestler. That guy's a Japanese combat wrestling champion. This, that, and the other thing. And a lot of us back in the day didn't really know what that meant. I had some exposure to Shuto because of JKD and that, but that back in the day I had no idea what combat wrestling was. I was just like, oh, okay, well, that's some style I don't know.
Yeah. Man. Well, there was no websites at the time. It was just nothing.
Yeah, no. Well, it was fairly obscure stuff.
Yeah.
I was shocked when I was in Japan and I would tell guys, like when I met him in Ari and whatnot, we were talking and I'm like, yeah, I came here for combat wrestling, won the worlds and whatnot, and all of a sudden they were like, oh, because
he competed quite a lot there.
Yeah, it was way more impactful for him because he knew all the guys.
Yeah.
He grew up in that era.
So how big is combat wrestling currently? I mean,
like in terms of like number of participating countries,
right?
Ooh, what are we up to now?
Officially, we have 17 countries participating, but we have unofficial members that they can form their teams, without being basically a member of the federation. I would say a lot more than that.
Wow.
Yeah. So from this year, for example, we're going to try to hold the World Championships mainly in Europe, just geographically, more.
And visa issues.
Yeah, visa issues too. Yeah. Last year we had some problems here. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're going to try to host them in Europe for the next maybe 3 or 4 years, because it's a lot easier to get.
And
people there.
You can register online for them, or because it's a team, right?
Well, you do have to register with your own federation. That's a trial process. You have to compete to win a spot in the national team.
Right. So
so
you're not used to it.
Yeah. Let's explain to everybody how it works.
Right. Yeah. In jiu-jitsu, except at like the black belt level, world championships are open. Anyone can enter. You pay your registration to the IBJJF and you go in and you've got just as much of an opportunity to get a guy who's a total scrub as you are, get a former world champion or top level guy. Obviously, in the actual world championships now, you have to earn your points to make it to the IBJJF GI World Championships.
Right.
But all the other tournaments are basically open.
Okay. So combat's
combat
more so like ADCC trials.
Yeah, combat wrestling we do a trials. Okay. And each country, organizes that how they will. You get it. You get the competitors. First place gets a shot on the world team in that weight class.
I got it.
And age bracket. We have an adult and a veterans division. There's also kids brackets as well.
Now this is something that you have to organize with the countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Quite a lot of work.
Yeah, I can't imagine administratively. That's why you speak so many languages. It makes sense now. Just part of the job.
Yeah.
How many languages do you speak?
6.
And what are those? Because I have trouble with just English, and I think most of our American listeners probably do too.
That would be Bulgarian, Russian, English, Japanese, Spanish, and Portuguese.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And you've lived in Bulgaria, Japan, and Brazil.
Japan, China, Mexico, and Brazil.
Jeez.
Currently in Brazil.
Currently in Brazil.
So how you like Brazil?
Well, look, lovely weather.
Yeah.
If you consider what you guys are having here.
Hey, it's warm today. We cracked the
warm.
teens.
But it's a great place to live. It's a great place to live. A little bit slow for my liking in terms of but I get
very
it. It's
relaxed.
Kind of like Latin America is like mañana. Like anything you want to do is like tomorrow, right? It's never happened like right now on time. So after Japan, it's a bit.
Yeah.
Man, I never considered that. Yeah, Japan is super precise. Like everyone had told me before I went there, how just absolutely precise the train system is. Like nothing's ever late. Like everyone's very punctual. When they say something's going to start on time, it's going to start on time.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah,
it's mind blowing at first.
Really?
It's mind blowing at first because we just don't work like that.
Right.
They do that.
Yeah.
It comes with all the stress and everything like that. Yeah, But once you get used to it, I miss it a lot.
Yeah, like I can see how, like, if I was in charge of anything, I would probably be stressing out all the time from it. Like, I was just there as a tourist, obviously, but I found it like really the near clockwork precision of everything. I found to be really quite refreshing. It's like, oh, okay, if I show up at this time, it will actually start at that time. And strangely enough, the jiu-jitsu gyms are apparently like one of the most lax places you can be, because that's the part of the Brazilian culture that
Brazilian.
So yeah, somebody was telling me, like, like I mostly went to do judo and whatnot while I was there, and like, yeah, everything was very formal, like exactly what I thought it would be in my mind. And then you go to visit a jiu-jitsu gym, and it's like not that different from a jiu-jitsu gym in America. People rolling in 10 minutes late, hanging around on the mat, just BSing and stuff. So yeah, that is a uniquely Brazilian thing that has invaded Japan, apparently.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But actually, a lot of Japanese like it like that, because for them it's kind of
it's relaxing. Yeah,
exactly, because they are not on time. So when they work, that's definitely not a matter of even thinking about it. Like, you cannot think with being late 5 minutes, for example. So a lot of them are gonna be late on purpose when they're going to practice for jiu-jitsu. They're like, oh, I'm guilty, but I like it.
But it's okay. So you found your way down to Brazil, and then so were you training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Japan prior to going to Brazil?
Yeah, I started something like 2001 in a place called Axis. That's Rickson Gracie gym. That's actually, I think, the first Rickson Gracie gym in Japan, with the first Japanese black belt he has. And over the time, just went back and forth, and I was changing different cities, different countries. I'm gonna get hired to, contracted to work for, let's say, 1 year in China. So then I'm going to go there. When I come back, I wouldn't be living in Tokyo anymore. I'm going to live in Osaka. That's different gym again. They don't have, the same gym representative there, so I have to switch gyms and blah, blah, blah. Wow. Yeah. It took quite some time.
Right.
So when did you receive your black belt?
Oh, just last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
In Brazil, right?
In Brazil, yeah.
From who?
Gracie Barra. My coach is Enrique Pofal.
Wow.
Yeah. So great coach, dude. But as I said, he's been, 18 years practicing on and off. It's just that's the thing. So I never practiced under one instructor for longer than, let's say, 2 years.
Yeah, that
is a
becomes
problem.
problematic.
Which I actually think that this is something that all the jiu-jitsu federations should be looking to fix in the future. Mm-hmm. Look, for example, if you look at the way that judo black belt is earned, basically, it really doesn't matter where do you train. It's the same sport, right?
Right.
So you're going to train, you have a competition card, and you compete, you get your points by winning certain amount of matches, you go to the next level. That's it. It's that simple. So why not doing it in jiu-jitsu as well? Who cares where you're going to train? Not everyone is rooted in the same city.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you, but where it comes in, I don't know. For me, looking at it, something about like the technique, because I'm a small guy. We're both small guys.
You are not a small guy, sir.
You are not a small guy.
It depends on the country.
That's right.
But I feel that sometimes bigger guys can tend to move up a little bit quicker because they can utilize their strength a little bit more than technique. Yeah. So they become more, as opposed to smaller guys who have to really rely. We got to hone in that technique a little bit more.
But it also depends on how rank is awarded.
Category.
Yeah, yes, I do. Yeah.
Right, so there is no issue there.
And I do the open class as well.
Yeah. What I mean is that, look, if you have your rank based on competition results. Mm-hmm. Then besides doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Right.
So you start with white belt category, whatever. Mm-hmm. So you go and compete. You need to win, let's say, 10 fights before you move to blue belt or certain stripes or whatever. So if you have that kind of system in place, then it's a lot easier.
Right.
And of course, then you're going to have the issue. Okay, what about people that don't want to compete?
Right, non-competitors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then maybe the way that they have it in Gracie Barra, for example, a certain amount of time. Spend on the mat and this and that. Yeah, that works too. In judo, wouldn't be possible in Japan, for example.
Right.
You know, there it doesn't matter how many times you're going to show up to class. If you don't compete, you don't get your next rank. That's it. Other countries, yes, it can happen. Like in my country, for example, I believe that you can actually go to a black belt without competing at all. But you should have spent quite a lot of time. 10 years or something.
Here in America, there's multiple paths to a black belt in judo. And the amount of time it takes is a real variable factor as well. I mean, it's like that in jiu-jitsu too, don't get me wrong. But like some people will never compete. They show up in class, they're awarded their rank based on their instructors, feeling on their progress. And typically, like at least at black belt level, sometimes at lower levels, depending on your club, there'll be some kind of test. Do you know the kata? Do you know X number of throws and pins and whatnot? That's kind of like, but that's really variable. Like there's definitely guys that have earned their rank through Batsugan, competition.
Well, in your jiu-jitsu LCCT, you have a certain thing you have to know.
Right. We have testing.
You have testing.
Yeah. And that's
for my school, Monaco. We don't have a specialized testing. He kind of mainly rolls with us and feels us and knows where we're at and knows when he wants to promote us.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think one way is better than the other.
Which is
different.
The current way, like pretty much everywhere around the world. Of course, you do have a lot of teams. Like my team, for example, is that as well. They have curriculum.
Yeah.
You should know this and this and this before you go to the next stage and everything. But this is the biggest team in the world. Of course, they're trying to get curriculum, right?
Right.
But of course, when you're going to have smaller places and stuff like that, then most probably that's another issue. All right. If you want to be a coach in Europe, judo, for example, or Olympic wrestling, okay, you will definitely need to have a sport bureau license, okay, which you get only after you graduate, let's say, in National Sport Academy, which is only based on pedagogics. So they're going to teach you how to teach. Okay, so it's not about techniques at all. How do you put curriculum together for kids from, let's say, 3 years old up to 8 years old? Okay, how do you put curriculum together for adults from this age to this age, for this weight category, and with this type of body structure and stuff like that? How many years an athlete have to start work with him to reach his peak, and when he start declining, how to improve him for, let's say, another 3, 4, 5 years? And all of those are based on Olympic cycles, which is 4 years, right? This kind of a knowledge currently doesn't exist in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I would love to have people start using that because it's right there. It's all of that knowledge is, you can find it online. Buy a bunch of books, read. Right. Use your mind, just use it right over there.
Right.
Books are even not expensive. You can get like something like $2.
Yeah, PDFs,
on Amazon and everything. Yeah.
But I think that's where Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is also in a tricky spot. Like I don't know anyone that does Sambo personally who doesn't think of it as primarily a sport, but a martial sport. Like we wear jackets that are specific to you're blue or you're red. That's what you compete in. A lot of the techniques are like the way we talk about them is like how much does this score? Is this a good strategic move for you? Like it's all about the sportive aspect. Wrestling here in America is 100% a combative sport. Like at no point in time, even though it is a martial art, at no point in time is anyone trying to like teach you as if they were teaching a martial art for self-defense. It's steeped in the sport of tradition. Jiu-jitsu's still in that different. Like it's in a phase where it's like some people definitely want it mainly as a martial art, focused on self-defense, not concerned with competition at all. You do these things in this way because this is the way that a fight should progress, so on and so forth. And then you got the total opposite end of the spectrum where people are like, no, like this is how you win tournaments. Here's the methodology, and like somewhere, so like getting those two ends of the conversation to meet in the middle on something as important as how rank structure works, that's going to be a fight I don't want to have.
But look, so what is the difference between if you put them all together? So you have judo, you have wrestling, you have sambo, and then you have Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right? Let's think about just those.
Sure.
What is the difference between them? Now, Sambo just got recognized as Olympic event. The other two are already
in the
Olympic
Olympics,
events. So we are talking about 3 Olympic sports and 1 non-Olympic, right? So those people here from the start, they know we're talking about sports.
Yeah,
This
of
is
course.
not self-defense or whatnot. They're like, we are winning medals with that thing. So the government is going to put support behind the whole federation. They're going to put the scientists down, the medics. They're going to make researches. How can you actually improve the athletes and whatever?
Right.
Versus, you know,
Over here, grassroots, trying to figure it all out on your own.
Yeah, it's a martial arts. You use for self-defense and everything like that. Nobody talk about that in those sports.
They don't talk about self-defense in Sambo.
Well, I mean,
you
there
just
are,
use it.
Yeah.
You just use it. You know, in Japan, for example, if you want to become a police officer, right? Yeah. You have certain tests and everything. But if you have a judo black belt, you already cover half of the points.
Wow.
Right? So they're not going to tell you that the best, street self-defense sport is going to be judo. No, they're just going to go practical. Do judo, dude. Get your black belt. You cover half of the points here. That's it.
Right.
It's simple. But they wouldn't recommend you, that sport specifically. I'm guessing it's the same with wrestling, actually. I'm not really sure.
I don't know.
But the friends that I have there that are police officers, one of them is actually 3rd degree black belt in judo, and the other one is a nationally ranked competitor in wrestling. I'm guessing that most probably wrestling counts too.
Right.
But I'm not really sure. So that's the difference, They're not even looking at general population. It's not for business. It's not for profit. This kind of sports are practiced in places that are strictly, non-for-profit organized. The fee that they're going to charge is going to be like $20 or something per month. Can you survive on $20 if you're running a BJJ gym? That's impossible.
And the crazy thing is, I have heard from people. Well, I shouldn't say I've heard. I've read, because somebody on Reddit one time made like a post like, what is the cost of jiu-jitsu in your area?
Yeah.
And, I'm American, so I go in there, I'm like, oh, everyone's going to be like, $100 a month, $250 a month, depending on whether you're in like a big city or not. And guys are like, yeah, $50 a month, $20. I'm like, where are these people? All of them were from Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Brazil is $20.
Wait. Bring that up on the mic. Say that again?
Brazil is $20. The place that I train, I mean, I don't pay because, obviously I'm an instructor there, but, the people normally just pay like $20 and that's it.
Right.
Yeah. But in Europe, to think like $150, what are you talking about? It's 1/3 of your salary.
Right.
No way.
Yeah, no one's gonna. I mean, I went to I'm not calling them out as the most expensive, but New York is way more expensive than Chicago in general.
Oh yeah, the cost of living.
Yeah, the cost of living alone. But then you go to Marcelo's place.
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna pay more for training at Marcelo's amazing gym and having Marcelo Garcia be your instructor, and that price in my mind, I'm like, okay, that's just what it is. That's the value.
AOJ, you're paying a lot for AOJ too.
Yeah, and I'm sure Otto. I mean, not that I've trained at every top flight school in America here, but that was that's the level. That's what you expect. And then when you're seeing guys I pay 1/10 that.
Yeah, but what's the level in Europe compared to Otto's? You have Andre Gaval.
I don't know. You want me to ask Hodger Gracie how good his gym is?
Well, there you go, Hodger Gracie.
Consider how long Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu have been in Europe.
Right, yeah, it's newer there, that's for sure.
So consider how many black belts do you have in the United States and how many do you have in all of Europe, right? Yeah. Now, if you consider that, you will see that it's progressing quite fast. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing that within 2-3 years, they're going to catch up.
Yeah.
Now, I also think that if things go the way that they are going right now, within 5 years, most probably black belt divisions are going to be dominated by Caucasian countries. I'm not talking about race. The Caucasian mountains, Dagestan, Chechnya, and those countries, they will dominate the world's youth.
Dagestan, that's what.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They already have, I think, 1 or 2 that are coming over. What was his name? I have to check it online.
Okay.
But it was quite a difficult name to pronounce.
I'm so pleased to hear that you have difficulty with it as well.
Oh, come on. Have you tried to read Mongolian names? Come on.
Oh my God. I went to school with a kid who was Mongolian, and I cannot actually tell you what his full name was because we just abbreviated it down to like the first three syllables.
Like Tony or something, right? It actually have like 30 letters in it.
Yeah.
And the thing is that they actually use Cyrillic, like we made that thing.
Right.
So I'm reading it in Cyrillic. I cannot finish the thing. It's like half page.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it was Bilal. Do you remember his name? No, I can't see right now. Yeah, but anyway, so he won a few years ago. He won against somebody who was quite well ranked in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like black belt. Mm-hmm. And nowadays he's like several times UWW world champion. Like he's doing super fights and everything like that. So his team in Dagestan they're doing quite well. So I'm guessing within 5 years, they're going to be a lot of people from that region over there. And if you look at the countries that are the feeders for the wrestling federation in Russia, for example, because Russia is a federation, right? It's not just one country. So the small republics there, like Dagestan, this region between Russia and Iran, this region over there, it breeds maybe 60% of the top wrestlers they have. Wow. They're amazing grapplers. Yeah. As I say, you have two seas. There's the Black Sea and is the Caspian Sea. Mm-hmm. Every country around this is badass at grappling.
Right.
If you think like wrestling,
it's in the culture.
It's all there.
What do you attribute that to?
I have no idea, but I'm guessing it's just old civilizations.
It's either the cultural focus or there's something in the water.
It's fascinating, right? Though
in small countries, majority of those people there, they're going to be like, they're going to live in very secluded areas. They're not even going to have gyms. They're going to be like kids, shepherds with goats.
what is the culture like? Like, what is the culture of that combat wrestling? Like, what do they do? Like, it's just bored. Like, okay, we're just gonna fucking wrestle all day long, and like
pretty much,
as opposed to. I mean, playing ping pong. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. Yeah, it's just odd.
As I said, they work as shepherds, for example. Yeah. So if you work as a shepherd, you have all day long together with animals, and you're there in outdoors. Right. And there's just maybe like one or two more kids, and the guy that is the actual shepherd. Actually, so he's going to be like the wrestling coach of the of the city, like of the small town. So he's going to teach them a few moves and like, go ahead. So they're going to wrestle all day long. There's nothing else to do.
Nothing else to do.
Yeah, there is no ping pong.
No.
They wish there were.
No cornhole out there?
No, probably not. Probably not playing that game.
It's quite different culture, and it's very macho culture, right? Yeah. So you have to learn to fight from childhood and everything. They also play around with knives a lot.
My kind of people.
Yep.
Man, fascinating.
It's fascinating. Yeah.
So I had heard a rumor. Future of maybe not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu per se, but UWW just brought up.
Yeah.
They run. So they do freestyle wrestling.
Yeah.
They do Greco, and they have their own submission grappling.
They have pretty much everything that has wrestling in it, including MMA. So they're going to have the Pancration Federation, like everything, all jacket styles. They have so you have Olympic wrestling. Mm-hmm. There are three types, right? You have the freestyle, you have Greco, and then you have female. So then you have non-Olympic. So
all the regional folk styles. And,
yes. So my opinion is that the way that I see, Greco, unfortunately, I'm saying unfortunately because I love it. That was my first sport. But doesn't have so much of a following, like globally. So I can see that in the future, most probably, it's possible that Greco would be dropped and be replaced with United World Wrestling Grappling, which is still different rule set.
Right. Yeah?
But that would bring, I'm talking about the Olympics, right? That would bring submission grappling to the Olympics, which I think is great in the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah. The question is, are they going to bring just the submission grappling, or is it going to be the gi grappling as well? Because they also have gi grappling.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Which means that if they bring the gi one, then jiu-jitsu pretty much is going to be in.
Right.
Just with a little bit of a different rule set.
Yeah, it's
Right.
not exactly. It's not IBJJF, but
Yeah. But the main competitors there are only jiu-jitsu guys,
right.
the gi guys. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so many. It's just like so much going on. It's
I
just
mean,
it hurts my head a little bit. just
Growing
to think
sport, man.
about,
It's
just-
interesting time to be alive.
Imagine like so many chessboards
Yeah.
moving around at the same time.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing that what I was just talking about right now, for example, people cannot see it in the States. What happens like in the scale of Olympics, for example, and stuff like that. Nobody knew around here, for example, for Sambo going to Olympics, right?
Right. Well, I mean, we heard about it through the internet. Like
Yeah.
if the
I did not know that.
right.
That was expected for quite a long time because I worked together with people that we were building up. Okay, so it have to clear this point to become an Olympic sport. So I took very small parts in that, but I could see the dimensions of the whole thing, and that's an effort since the 70s.
Right.
So how many years is that?
Yeah. No. I mean, and I don't remember what was it like. It was somewhere in the 80s where it was like a demonstration sport,
In
and that's the close.
1980, it was supposed to enter as an Olympic sport. Unfortunately, 1980 Olympics were boycotted by the West world. So
Right.
then it just was recognized as Olympic event, but it didn't enter the family of Olympic sports.
Right.
Now the problem after that was that like every time, to put your own sport in the Olympics is kind of like a national pride for certain country,
Right.
So Sambo is the sport of Russia, right? Then you have the Cold War going on. You have the Iron Curtain, so falling, right? Then nobody cares about pushing for Olympics anymore, right? So then, in the end of the 90s, the movement is going back again. Let's go, let's do it, right? The country's getting back, they have the economy going strong and everything like that. But then it becomes a political decision, right? Because you go back to the situation where U.S. and Russia are right now, right? And then it's like, we want to go with the Olympics and everything, but those guys said no.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. Yeah, so it is ridiculous. Isn't
So
it?
crazy.
Yeah, but
No,
that's a strictly
Politics
political
of
decision.
politics of international sport. One of the other things.
What's
that,
what's it gonna hurt? Like that's what kind of blows my mind because
well, what's going to hurt adding another sport?
yeah.
Well, okay. So
What's it gonna hurt? Like
here's the
what
thing
are we?
that's tricky
What's
about
the
that.
point of that?
So, and I don't know what you might know the number, but I don't know what the exact number is. But before a sport can be in the Olympics, it has to have an adequate number of participating Olympic countries.
80.
80. Okay, yeah, I knew it was up there. But so Sambo hasn't grown as fast as we might like.
Wait.
No, the
You're
currently
saying-
have 120.
Wait.
They're 120 right now.
Right. But like in the beginning when they were first trying to get it in,
Yeah.
So how many countries have curling?
120.
Curling?
Yeah. Curling, sorry. I told you so. You say currently for Sambo.
No.
Curling, I believe. But
Curling.
that's a winter sport.
Yeah.
That's not the Summer Olympics.
yeah.
So that's
Win-
different.
Yeah, winter sports are a lot more limited because you gotta have.
You got to be
winter
from a
for
country
that.
that has
Right. So then the specs for that or the
the summer Olympics, which are the original Olympic Games,
Right.
are
see.
much more stringent on their
It's
requirements.
harder to go in,
the
yeah.
requirements.
Then again, you have different sports like, let's say, skateboarding or BMX, for example. That I think skateboarding made it.
You did? Really?
I think so. I'm not really sure.
I'm not sure.
Can I Google that?
Yeah, somebody. Jamie, pull that shit up.
That's where box questions
Yeah.
come in.
Well, karate just made it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but the
But
thing is
skateboard- I don't know if
which
skateboarding,
karate.
I mean,
Okay.
I know a dude who absolutely could answer that question, but I don't know that answer off the top of my head. But it's they're point sparring.
Yeah.
But like I don't think it's Kyoshinkai. I mean, I think it's like
So look,
whatever the most generalist one is, I guess.
yeah, but then so there you go. You gotta have certain style to be represented in 80 countries in the world in order to become Olympic, right?
Right.
So you have karate, but they have a bunch of styles.
Right.
And then
They have to agree to compete
Yes,
under a single rule
but
set.
they never agree on that. So how is it possible to have 80 countries that already practice it? And
Right.
by the way, you are not allowed to run for recognition for as an Olympic sport if the same sport's been practiced in different federations. So, for example, in Taekwondo they have the Olympic one and non-Olympic one.
Right.
That happened after the Olympic recognition, I believe. I'm not really sure about
No,
that.
I think that's accurate that it's split.
Yeah. So then you have all of those karate federations in the world, and it's still not very clear, like which one is it,
Yeah, I'm.
which is a little bit hypocritical. Hypocritical.
Yeah,
I
I
believe.
man, I gotta get John Fonseca on to talk about this.
Yeah.
What'd you find out?
I wasn't able.
Oh man, Jamie, you failed us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like the challenge is of you're trying to grow a sport. You've got to get enough representation from the countries. Everyone has to agree. Is on a singular rule set.
You can't get
So yeah, like there's a lot that goes into bringing a sport to the Olympics, and now we're closer than we ever have been.
Yes.
So
They gotta have a global sponsor,
right.
which in Sambo's case is Rosneft, which is the oil company of Russia. You don't get better sponsor than that.
Right.
You're right. Olympic debut 2020.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Skateboarding?
It's so awesome. Holy shit.
Man, you missed your calling, man.
Yeah, apparently.
You could have been an Olympic longboarder. Got to find out what style it
I
is
gotta
too.
find out
Yeah,
style, yeah. But man, that's so fascinating. I
There
did
are
not
two,
realize that.
2 or 3 new sports that made it in the Tokyo Olympics, and I believe that at least 2 of them do. Like, if you're looking at the, requirements to become Olympic sport, there's no way they made it.
Oh, really?
There is no federation of skateboarding.
right.
We do have federation of skateboarding.
I don't know. I mean,
how do we make the spot for that?
I don't even know. Well, that's why I'm blown away right now. I'm kind of like,
that's the other thing, though. But
That's
like they've
next
already had
year.
snowboarding and
yeah, 2020.
That's next year.
Yeah.
So how do you get a spot? Where are the trials? Which country is competing?
Right. Yeah, I have no idea. I mean,
Strange, isn't it?
you follow skateboarding and snowboarding way more than I do. I don't even know how big snowboarding is in the Winter Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's big. Yeah.
So
very big.
skateboarding has to be more available than that. You don't need snow.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
So,
for sure.
but yeah, I have no idea what the international governing body of skateboarding is. Like this is I am not prepared to have this conversation in the slightest.
I know that snowboarding has, but I don't think that skateboarding actually has. I don't know how it works. Most probably they do some competitions based on like professional competitions working with, let's say, Red Bull or something like that.
Right.
But I don't know.
Further research is required.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
But yeah.
another requirement for a sport to become an Olympic sport, you cannot have a country's name into it. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu cannot make it by default.
Right, but they could just drop the Brazilian and
Yes.
make it jiu-jitsu. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's been discussed actually kind of extensively, that people don't want that to happen,
Yeah.
which is funny to me because,
But, realistically, I think that it's not going to be a good idea for Jiu-Jitsu itself to become an Olympic sport because,
of the changes the IOC will make.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. But it's not only the IOC. If you're looking at the general population looking at Jiu-Jitsu, like what's happening on the ground? So you have 50-50, right? What's happening there? How are you going to explain to a person that actually doesn't have an interest in Jiu-Jitsu what's happening?
Who's winning?
Why?
Right.
And
50-50. There you go. Who's winning?
yeah.
Each of them.
I am.
Exactly.
So the point there would be: is it going to be attractive for non-grapplers or people that don't like watching grappling and everything?
I think that's actually like that's
I mean,
part
if
of
it's
it.
Rafa Mendez, it's attractive to everybody because he's an amazing athlete and he does some
But-
crazy stuff.
But
He's still
consider
Bruno
this, so
Malfacini.
Yeah, they still
he
need.
competes for Brazil. He will cover just one spot
Yeah.
in the category, right? So it's only him. So all Brazilians that are in the same weight category are not going to the Olympics.
Right.
He's going to go just one. Okay, United States, again, the best ones, they're going to have trials and everything, so they're going to go. Okay, other countries, you're not going to actually see that much of a 50-50, for example. I'm guessing it's going to be a lot of different strategies, basically, to win. but you will not have 10 minutes fights for sure.
No?
No,
What would you have?
5 minutes tops.
Really?
Yeah, 5 minutes and black belts only.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 to 8 categories most probably. No open weight categories. It's against the Olympic mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah. It will change.
But age, right?
Well, yeah,
No, in Olympics you don't have masters.
So it's only what's the
Only
age?
adults.
So 30 and 30
Well,
below.
yeah,
up to 35.
I was going to say, I
Oh,
think
so
you
up to
can.
35?
I think you'd be up to 35,
Up
and
to
so
35,
So
yeah.
my
yeah.
Olympic, I'm done.
You're done.
Yeah.
You're so done.
I can't do it.
Well, look, if you're 40 and you win your spot, you are going. You know, there is no limit there. It's like, okay, if you're like 35, you can't make it. No, you can make it, but yeah, it's gonna be quite limited. In
Yeah,
terms
you would
of,
have to. You would have to win adult world. Let's say the IBJJF became the qualifier.
Sure.
Although obviously it couldn't be because
No.
you'd need a national qualifier. Actually, you can't have Brazilians and Americans competing for the same spot on the American team, for example.
Makes sense.
So you'd have to have some national qualifier, which would change the way we run. Say IBJJF nationals, for example. You'd have to figure out what the weight categories are, and you'd have to have. That right there might change the way belt rank would have to work if that were to happen, just in and of itself, because you want the youngest, best athletes you can get being able to represent, and most of those guys aren't black belts yet.
Right.
since the Olympics are run once in 4 years, you have to think about athletes that are going to make it for this Olympic cycle and the ones that are going to make it for the next one.
Right, because you're investing all that time into making that athlete.
And they will most probably get the sponsorship and everything, like let's say scholarships,
Well, welcome to America.
Parts.
There's
Yeah,
it's a
a
little
lot of
different.
moving parts.
Let's see, because let's say I believe in Saudi Arabia, or was it in the Emirates, they actually have school programs. with
Right, yeah,
Jiu-Jitsu
Dubai,
right now,
Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, so if they start expanding, because that's the federation that is the closest to becoming an Olympic sport. They already participated in the Asian Games, which is, I don't know if you're aware how that works, but you have the Olympics, and then you have kind of like continental Olympics. So you have the European Games, Pan American Games, Asian Games. So those are qualifiers for the Olympics. So last year, Jiu-Jitsu participated in the Asian Games for the first time.
Right.
And that was the UAE Federation, right?
I believe so, yeah.
And they're also giving very good monetary prizes for that. So it's logical.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. Ricardo Laborio also recently, I think, made final progress on this master plan he's got going on in Florida, which is to get Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a college course. So you can go and take classes, get college credit. They're forming a collegiate team, I believe. I'm not super in depth on all the things he's working on there.
Colleges would compete against other colleges, and
and as far as I know, I think it's just one school in Florida right now that has started the program. But yeah,
there are college programs currently,
right? But it's not like you have like Big Ten Jiu-Jitsu.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. It's in most schools
That's cool.
that have a type of Jiu-Jitsu program. It's a club level program only.
Right.
It's a lot of volunteers. I think we've talked about this before. I taught up at NIU just as a guest instructor, not as a regular thing, but because they have a club, and it's none of the kids there are more than a purple belt at this point. So they don't have a black belt on staff. It's they're allowed to use the room during these hours.
Right.
They have to share it with fencing or whatever else. So yeah, it's not like an official sponsored program of the college, like say a wrestling program or a basketball team or something like that. But it's something you can go there and learn and practice. This is what Laborio is doing is moving it to the next level where it's legitimized, supported by the schools. And
but college credit for it?
I believe that. Yeah, well,
you don't get college credit for being on the
but
baseball team.
Yeah, I misspoke when I said that.
Yeah.
But it's a team sport at the college at a collegiate level.
if I can give you an example, for let's say in Sambo, right? What we did in Mexico, working with the local federation there, they have two big universities in Mexico. One of them is UNAM, the other one is Polytechnic, right? So both of them, they have this structure in Mexico City where you have, this is the university, here you have like a college, high school, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the elementary schools. They're part of the same, let's say UNAM has university, high schools, and elementary schools. So if you enter in UNAM elementary school from the beginning and you want to go to the high school, since you're already part of the organization, you already have covered certain percentage of the points that are required to enter the high school, right? So as long as you're staying inside the system, basically you make it faster. You have faster progress. And we started implementing Sambo in these kind of schools. You know, we start putting it as one of the disciplines that kids are gonna basically covering there is a physical education together with wrestling, you know, with judo and everything.
Right.
It has great success right now, you know. Yeah. There was also a program to teach the federal police there as well. They had a program for about 25,000 people a year or something to cover combat Sambo.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was that big.
Yeah. Well, it's all about government decision, right? If the sports committee gives it a go, then go ahead and do it. Of course, they're going to do only a course of, let's say, 6 months.
Right.
Right? Which is going to help them basically with...
right, but that's not dissimilar from what we do for self-defense training for our police officers and whatnot. Actually, maybe more, more comprehensive, I'm not sure.
Then also you're going to have, let's say, competition within the federal police, right? So that keeps also high level, at least, basically.
Right.
Keep on competing.
Right. They're actually encouraged to. Yeah. We do that with the military.
Yeah. They're going to have a cup on their own, you know, and everything like that. So that really helps the sport, and they do get paid for that in the end of the day. Right. So those kind of programs are what is the difference between the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu United States with the way that sports are organized in, let's say, Europe, right? These kind of programs that are, you know, sport committee based, the government subsidies based, and everything like that. They help people grow within the sport and get rewarded for that, get college education, you know, reach the level to become like coach, work inside of the federation. Sorry. Even if they don't have the money to allow it, to, you know, to cover for all the expenses.
Right. And just to wind back just a little bit, so you had mentioned combat Sambo. There are at this point there's two very distinct styles of Sambo that are sports, and while they're kind of parallel, they're often learned together. They're not identical. Previously, like I don't know, probably up until the late 90s, early 2000s, if you said combat Sambo, people were assuming that you were talking about like military style Sambo. Yeah. Okay. But now combat Sambo is it. It's the easiest way for me to explain this to people is it's Sambo performed with shin guards, MMA gloves, and headgear in the jacket with a massive range of striking.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So, like, it very much, like, it looks like MMA contested in a Sambo mat, like a wrestling mat.
Jackets.
With jackets on.
With headbutts and groin strikes.
Right.
Whoa.
Legal. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, we were just watching today, you know. So,
yeah.
You know,
I mean, okay, I'm okay with the headbutts, but the groin strikes.
That's where you draw the line.
I draw the line a little bit there.
Yeah,
can you wear a cup or no? No cups.
You can wear.
Yeah.
So we were watching the Russian championship today, you know. So actually the guy who was a protege of Fedor Emelianenko, his name is Kirill Sidelnikov. He became second this year, which was a bit surprising. But I was just watching one of the guys kick him, and they start counting knockdown.
Right.
For him, you know. So he got kicked in the balls. He's like, you know, and they're counting knockdown. He was like, okay, I'm okay. I'm fine. So he went and knocked out the guy after that.
Holy shit! Wait,
yeah. So
what's the? I mean, just every part.
Realism.
Yeah, I guess.
Realism.
Right? But the guy can wear a cup. He's still gonna hurt, obviously. But
yeah.
He's not wearing like a titanium. Like it has to be a certain type.
Self-defense.
They slide. Oh. Yeah. You know, when you have just random shot.
Yeah.
It's not the same like if somebody is targeting.
Yeah, full power kick.
Right. Damn.
Yeah.
That's gangster. And
Right.
headbutts.
Well, and here's the thing. So, this probably going to sound confusing, but bear with me. So, Sambo scores in a variety of ways, but one of the main components of Sambo scoring is quality of throw. Okay, so in jiu-jitsu, you take a dude down. Doesn't matter how. Doesn't matter whether you lift him over your head, slam him on the. Well, okay, if you lift him over your head and slam him on his head, you're getting disqualified.
Exactly.
But yeah, like I could make a guy do a 360 through the air, land on his back, and it's worth 2 points, or I could trip him and like he stumbles and I fall on top of him and it's worth 2 points.
Yeah.
It's just a takedown. Okay, Sambo we score based on the quality of the throw, so you can score all the way from what we call total victory, which is that's it, it's over.
Right.
Okay, down to much lower scores. Okay, based on how he lands, my control and whatnot. So a total victory throw, for example, is I'm going to rotate the guy through the air. He's going to land flat on his back, and I'm going to remain standing. This is a very difficult caliber of throw to achieve. Right. Okay, there's guys that are world champions that probably have never pulled off a total victory.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, like guys that I know.
Hard.
Yeah, guys that I know that have won like nationals and Pan Am championships and whatnot have like one total victory ever. Like everything else scores like 4 points or lower because it's so difficult to do, relatively speaking. Because not that it's easy, but it's like there's a lot of throws where it's like, oh, I'm going to slam him to the ground, but I'm going to fall over to a knee or land on top of him. Yeah. That's 4 points. That's a really good throw, but it's not a total victory. Okay. Combat Sambo scores similarly for strikes. Okay. So if, for example, I've seen a guy get a total victory from a headbutt because he headbutted the guy, remained standing, and the dude fell flat on the ground. And boom, match is over. Yeah.
The result of the technique is the same.
Right.
He fall flat on his back. So did you kick him in the head? Did you punch him? Did you headbutt him? It's the same. It's a throw. They don't score strikes
does he have
in
to be
the
on
way
his back, or can he be on his?
on his back.
Yeah. For
Not
total
face forward.
victory. For total victory.
Can't be on his stomach.
No, that's 1 point.
Yeah.
Get the fuck. Can you roll him over?
No.
knock him out?
It's the impact that matters. The moment of impact.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the result, right? Which matters in the end. It's quite interesting. They don't score strikes in the way that you score them in, let's say, kickboxing or boxing. Like jab 1 point. This
Right.
1 point. No, the result is important. You punch him, he fall on his back, 4 points.
But that's one punch, right? The guy can't continue to punch him.
Oh, he can do.
He could.
Yeah, he can.
So if I kick the guy in the groin, I can continue.
Zito's getting ready here.
Well, I mean, if it's on the table, okay.
Look, if you kick him in the balls, for example, he's not able to continue immediately, they will score knockdown, and the guy's going to start counting, like 1, 2, 3.
Can I headbutt and then knee in the groin?
No. The referee is going to stop it
Oh, he'll
right
stop
over
the
there.
match.
You go
Okay,
to
there
your
you go.
corner, he starts counting knockdown.
So it's like boxing.
No. So once he goes, of course, when he goes to 10, if the guy is not capable of continuing, that's it.
Sure.
But if he goes to 8 and the guy continues, then he will score 4 points for you.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
So that's the difference.
Right.
But it's going to be the result of your actions.
But the ref intervenes.
Yes.
Like I kick the guy, he goes to a kneeling point.
If he's in danger of going out, the referee is going to interfere.
Okay.
But if you threw the guy, he's on the ground, and you continue punching, there's not a problem at all.
Oh, not a problem.
Yeah.
If he doesn't answer, though, so let's say, going back to the situation we were discussing about Ben Askren today, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right.
Similar situation in combat Sambo, like the ref was already late, right? They will go, as soon as the guy lands 2 or 3 punches and he's not answering, that's it. You're in that position, it's like, that's wrong.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot faster.
And combat Sambo is kind of unique until fairly recently. MMA is one of the only sports with ground and pound as an actual technique. Like karate has sort of like you can sweep and then you strike the guy from like a standing position or a kneeling position and whatnot. But you don't like get on him and start laying down hammer fists and whatnot. That was kind of unique to MMA and combat Sambo until recently. And that I think is actually a big key of why so many Russian, Eastern European athletes are able to transition into MMA now because they're growing up doing combat Sambo and wrestling, and all those elements are already there in the way they're training. So it's an easier transition into MMA for a lot of them than it is for some guy who's like, I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt. I've done a little bit of kickboxing. No, they've already got an integrated sport, and now professional level MMA. Just you add the ring, you change the uniform, but a lot of your fundamentals are still there.
Ground and pound is so important in MMA that people actually need to spend quite a lot of time to learn it by itself. So if you take a pure wrestler, pure jiu-jitsu, a pure boxer, or whatever, once it goes to ground and pound, they need to learn a completely different skill. So the guys in combat Sambo, they already trained that, right? They have it and they regularly use it in competitions. So that's their advantage that they have. Yeah. Besides that, they will know like equally throwing and maybe striking and ground game as well. It's like keep the guy on his back, punch him, look for pin, a submission. Yeah. So it's a lot similar to what happens in MMA, right? As a winning methods, for example.
Yeah, and combat Sambo actually allows a wider variety of submission holds than regular sport of Sambo as well, which is something a lot of people I don't think realize.
You still wear the shoes, right?
Yeah. You wear the shoes, you wear the uniform looks identical other than the addition of the padded elements, the gloves, the shin guards, and the headgear. Yeah. So
the shin guards are to protect your shins.
Yeah, more so than anything.
Because why pad on the shin guards?
You protect your own shins.
On the shin, to protect your own shins from hitting him.
Yeah, because on impact or for low kick, for example, you can actually hurt yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not protecting the other guy.
Just like the glove isn't protecting the dude's face.
Right.
Yeah.
Protecting you.
Yeah, and like I don't know historically where that comes from, but like if you look at like early days, like Judo and like early days MMA, a lot of guys in Japan were wearing like the shin guards, even when they were doing bare hand striking, they were still wearing like shin guards.
I mean, Thai boxers don't wear shin.
Well, they practice with them, but they don't wear them in competition.
Right.
No. Well, sorry, at a professional level, they don't.
I don't know either. I never thought about it. Like, why do they do it?
Yeah.
I just took it away as well. They do it.
I mean. And I might be talking out of my ass here. I honestly thought that idea was just kind of taken literally directly from pro wrestling. Like there's the trunks and the shin guards from pro wrestling. Let's just transfer that directly over. And then once we started figuring out that the gloves were a good idea, let's add the gloves on. And if you're going to be doing the headbutts, like the headgear is helpful for avoiding cuts and things like that. So throw the headgear on there. It's
Originally, combat Sambo didn't hit any gear at all, though.
Right, no, yeah, like early days, the first stuff that I ever saw was pretty freaking brutal.
Bare knuckle.
Yeah.
Bare knuckle, headbutts, everything, no protectors at all.
Yeah.
And that was mainly in military divisions. That was a sport that was not allowed to be practiced outside of
the military
and law enforcement.
Okay.
You couldn't.
And like I know I hadn't heard of combat Sambo as its own individual thing, as like a sportive thing, until I want to say like 2003, 2002, somewhere in that era, maybe even later. I might be misremembering that.
They held competitions back in maybe starting the 60s. But those were never.
But those weren't
for
public.
the general public.
Yeah, that was.
This is just internal thing in the military or law enforcement, right? Sometimes they would call them hand-to-hand fighting, right? But it's still the same rule set,
right?
And later on, basically, they start using the name combat Sambo specifically for that. I think around the 80s.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah, but we're still talking about like internal thing.
Right, yeah. Like I said, I had no knowledge of it being an individual sport.
Yeah, I've actually been in several arguments online. People is like, show the document. So I was able to actually find the documents and show them, like, here, you have a book stating this and this championship here and there. So there is some results, but you gotta search in Slavic, like Russian or Bulgarian or whatever.
Right.
You're not gonna find it in English. Who's going to translate like one-page document from the 60s?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely no meaning. Yeah.
Wow, it's fascinating. It's incredible. Goes deep.
Yeah, no, Sambo's got an interesting and storied past.
Are we doing any technique today?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I was going to let him throw you
Yeah, I can't get thrown because of my rib.
because you're soft.
Yeah, no, my rib. Still messed up.
Okay,
But you can throw
let's go
Javi.
for the hips then.
You can throw Javi anytime.
Of course, I'll be volunteering.
Javi loves to get thrown. Javi loves it. It's so fascinating how.
He just wants to see me in pain because
I don't think I've ever seen you in pain ever.
like inflicted by your own hands.
Well, definitely not by my own hands for sure. I can tell you that. But I just
That's quite the way to come back at him, isn't it? Like you get somebody on the podcast and say, "Yeah, I think you should try that move on Javi."
This is his greatest pleasure. Yeah.
all right. Well, let's go do some technique. You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right. Where can people find you?
Like social media, like
Yeah, pretty much. Well, you can find me on my personal website, yagadom.com.
hold on. I need you to share the story of
Yeah.
that.
What about it?
The name. The name. I didn't put two and two together about all of that until we had that conversation.
May I just jump in really quick?
No, you may not.
He's been quiet this whole time.
No, on the end is something that he definitely have to mention
What's
because
that?
he's forgetting.
What?
It's those Yagadame tournaments that he
Yeah. Well,
that they're gonna be
Yeah,
coming up.
we'll,
So
we'll get to it.
Okay.
I started. It's kind of like projects for helping basically people to participate in customized training camps for them, right? So normally, if you want to go to a training camp right now, like what do you need to do? You have to search online who organizes around what time, where, and blah
Right.
blah. But this is very rare for people to actually make it in the same time as another 10 guys are going to do. So I put together 5 different spots for now. I'm most probably going to expand a little bit in different countries where you can concentrate. Let's say one of the countries is going to be mainly judo. The other country is going to be Brazilian jiu-jitsu, obviously Brazil. Then we're going to have the Sambo place with MMA guys there as well. That's in Bulgaria. So I started from that and then expanded a little bit more in building a library of this kind of manuals that I told you how to build your curriculum and everything like that. And then start organizing seminars, and nowadays start organizing professional events under combat wrestling rules. So it's kind of like a project that builds up not only athletes but coaches as well, and gives also a platform for competitors. Yeah, because up until now, combat wrestling is purely amateur sport. So I want to switch a little bit more on the professional side.
Wow.
Give opportunity to people to, make a little bit of prize money. And we're actually going to see quite interesting matchups with people from different disciplines that already won several different championships, in United World Wrestling, in Jiu-Jitsu or ADCC or whatever. Like, who wouldn't want to see that? Yeah,
for sure.
So, and Yagadom, the name, eh?
Yeah,
All right. Well, maybe you guys have seen the movie with Keanu Reeves.
John Wick.
Yeah, John Wick.
Yeah.
Well, you should remember what they called him there, Baba Yaga, which is kind of ridiculous. Why would they call him that? Like that's not a male name. So Yaga is a name we use in the Slavic countries for a witch. There is this witch that lives in the woods. She lives in a big house on chicken legs and everything like that. Yeah. So it's kind of like a folklore and a synonym for witchcraft and stuff like that. So yeah, I call him the house of Yaga, basically Yagadom. You're gonna learn how to do some witchcraft. Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
YAGADOME.com.
Wow. Cool.
And that is also one of your Instagram?
Yes.
Is Yagadom?
Yeah, just Yagadom. You can find it very easy. Yeah.
Cool. Excellent.
Organizing the first professional event in combat wrestling on March 17th in Vlad Kulikov's Academy in New Jersey. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Damn. Gangster. You gotta get Vlad on.
Yeah.
Next time he's in town.
Yeah,
that's
next
right.
time he's in town. He's a cool dude. He hung out with us at a UFC event.
Yes, we have the pictures.
Yes, that's fun. Awesome. All right, let's go.
Let's go
Javi.
see. Yeah, let's go see me get tortured.
Well, thanks, gentlemen, for coming on. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for
Bye.
having me. Bye.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Very Hard to Submit. Go to vhtsny.com and check out their kimonos, compression gear, and apparel. This is a brand we are excited to be supported by. Their gear is high quality with a clean design. Go to vhtsny.com and see for yourself. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. For more information about Grappler Union Podcast, you could visit us at our website at grapplerunion.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Grappler Union. Please like us on Facebook. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. And all of our episodes are available on our YouTube channel. Say what?
Be sure to subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe to all that shit. You got to do another take, right?
Oh.